In just 46 seconds, one of Britain's most beloved presenters would deliver the most devastating takedown in television history, exposing secrets that would send a former royal running for the exits in absolute fury. What started as lighthearted banter on Alison Hammond's morning show quickly descended into a brutal confrontation that left viewers speechless and one guest's carefully crafted public image in absolute ruins. The tension was already thick in the studio as Meghan Markle settled into the plush cream sofa opposite Alison Hammond. The Duchess of Sussex had arrived 20 minutes late, her team of handlers hovering anxiously in the wings, whispering urgent instructions about approved topics and time limits. Something felt different about this appearance. Meghan's usual polished smile seemed strained, her posture rigid despite Alison's warm welcome. "Right then, Meghan. Lovely to have you here with us this morning," Alison began, her trademark infectious energy filling the studio. "Now, I have to say, you look absolutely stunning. That outfit is giving me everything I need today." Meghan's laugh felt forced as she smoothed down her designer blazer. "Thank you, Alison. It's wonderful to be here. Though I have to say, your studio is much smaller than I expected." The comment landed with an uncomfortable thud. Alison's eyebrows raised slightly, but her smile never wavered. "Well, we make up for it in heart, don't we? Speaking of which, let's talk about your new venture. I understand you're launching another lifestyle brand?" "It's not just another brand," Meghan corrected sharply, her media training kicking in. "It's a carefully curated experience that speaks to authentic living and genuine connection. Something I think people are desperately craving in today's world." Alison nodded enthusiastically, but there was something brewing behind her eyes. "Authentic living. I love that. And genuine connection, yes, that's something you've always been passionate about, hasn't it? Even back in your earlier days." Meghan's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "I've always believed in being true to myself, if that's what you mean." "Oh, absolutely," Alison continued, her voice still bubbly but with an edge that seasoned viewers might have recognized. "I mean, we've all got to start somewhere, haven't we? Take me, for instance. I started in local radio, making tea for the producers. Everyone's got those humble beginnings." The studio audience murmured appreciatively, but Meghan's expression had shifted. Her fingers gripped the arm of the sofa slightly tighter. "I'm not sure what you're implying, Alison." "Oh, nothing at all." Alison waved her hand dismissively, but her eyes were locked on Meghan's face. "I just think it's beautiful how life takes us on these unexpected journeys. I mean, who would have thought that a girl from the Midwest would end up in a palace, right? Though, of course, you had quite the interesting path getting there." Meghan's publicist, visible in the wings, made a subtle cutting gesture across her throat, but Alison either didn't see it or chose to ignore it completely. "Interesting how?" Meghan's voice had dropped several degrees in temperature. Alison leaned forward conspiratorially, as if sharing a secret with a close friend. "Well, you know, all those networking events, all those connections you made along the way, the parties, the yacht trips, the very strategic friendships. It's quite impressive, really, how you positioned yourself." The color began draining from Meghan's face. "I'm sorry, but I think there might be some confusion about—" "Oh, no confusion at all, love," Alison interrupted, her Birmingham accent becoming more pronounced as her excitement grew. "I've done my homework, haven't I? That's what good journalists do. We dig deep. We ask the hard questions. And I have to say, some of the stories that have come to light recently, well, they paint quite a different picture than the one we've been given, don't they?" Meghan's media training was clearly warring with her rising anger. "Alison, I came here to discuss my current projects and my commitment to making a positive impact. I'm not sure why you're bringing up positive impact. Yes, let's talk about that." Alison cut in again, her tone still friendly but her words razor sharp. "Because I'm curious about how someone makes a positive impact while simultaneously burning bridges with literally everyone they've ever worked with. I mean, that takes some doing, doesn't it?" The studio fell deadly silent. Even the camera operators seemed to lean in, sensing that something unprecedented was about to unfold. Meghan's carefully constructed composure was beginning to crack, her jaw clenching visibly as she struggled to maintain control. "I think you're confusing tabloid gossip with actual journalism, Alison," Meghan said through gritted teeth. Alison's laugh was genuine and delighted. "Oh, tabloid gossip. Is that what we're calling first-hand accounts now? Because I have to tell you, Some very credible sources have been quite chatty recently. People who actually know you, who've worked with you, who've seen behind that perfectly curated Instagram facade. Meghan's hands were now visibly trembling with rage. You have absolutely no right to— I have every right, darling, Alison interrupted, her voice still sickeningly sweet. This is my show, and you agreed to come on. Did you really think we were just going to talk about your latest business venture and let you plug whatever overpriced wellness nonsense you're peddling this week? Because if so, you clearly haven't been watching the show. The audience was riveted, phone cameras discreetly emerging despite the strict no recording policy. This was television gold, and everyone in the studio knew it. Meghan's team was frantically making signals from the wings, but she seemed to be beyond their reach now, her fury building to a crescendo that threatened to explode at any moment. But what Alison said next would prove to be the point of no return, the verbal grenade that would detonate everything Meghan had worked so carefully to build. Because here's the thing, Meghan, Alison continued, her voice dropping to an almost intimate whisper that somehow felt more menacing than any shout could have been. I've been speaking to some very interesting people. People from your Suits days, people from those charity galas you used to frequent, people who remember exactly how you operated before you met Harry. And the picture they paint, well, it's fascinating, really. Meghan's face had gone completely white now, her breathing becoming visibly shallow. Alison, I don't know what lies you've been told, but— Lies? Alison's eyebrows shot up in mock surprise. Oh, honey, these aren't lies. These are documented facts. Email chains, text messages, witness statements. The works, really. It's quite the collection. The studio atmosphere had become electric with tension. Production assistants were frozen in place, unsure whether to intervene or let this car crash continue to unfold. The audience sat in stunned silence, watching what was rapidly becoming one of the most explosive television moments in recent memory. You see, Alison pressed on relentlessly. What I find particularly interesting is how you managed to position yourself at all those high-profile events. How you always seemed to know exactly which photographers would be there, which angles would capture you best, which celebrities to attach yourself to for maximum exposure. Almost like it was calculated. Meghan's voice came out as a barely controlled hiss. How dare you sit there and imply that Oh, I'm not implying anything, love. Alison cut her off with devastating precision. I'm stating facts. Like the fact that you had a very specific list of targets, influential men, powerful connections, people who could elevate your status. And you worked through that list quite systematically, didn't you? The accusation hung in the air like a physical presence. Meghan's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, her carefully crafted media persona crumbling in real time as the full weight of what was happening hit her. That's absolutely disgusting, she finally managed to stammer. You're sitting here making up stories about me, attacking my character based on what? Anonymous sources? Gossip? This is exactly the kind of harassment that— Anonymous sources? Alison's laugh was sharp and cutting. Oh, darling, there's nothing anonymous about Marcus Anderson, or Jessica Mulroney, or any of the other people who've been quite vocal about their experiences with you recently. In fact, some of them were quite eager to share their stories. At the mention of those names, Meghan's entire body went rigid. Her eyes widened in genuine panic, and for the first time since the interview began, she looked truly rattled. These weren't random accusations. These were specific, targeted strikes at the heart of her most protected secrets. You have no idea what you're talking about, Meghan said, but her voice lacked conviction now. The confident, controlled tone she'd arrived with was completely gone, replaced by something desperate and defensive. Alison sensed blood in the water and moved in for the kill. Don't I? Because according to multiple sources, you had quite the reputation in Toronto. Not the one you've been selling to the world, mind you. The real one. The one where you were known for using people, discarding them when they were no longer useful, and always having an angle. The cameras continued to roll, capturing every micro-expression, every telltale sign of Meghan's mounting panic. Her publicist had given up on subtle signals and was now making frantic cutting motions, but the damage was far too extensive to contain now. But as devastating as these revelations were, what Alison revealed next would push Meghan completely over the edge. "You know what really gets me, though?" Alison said, her voice taking on an almost conversational tone that somehow made her words even more deadly. "It's the hypocrisy of it all. Standing up there giving speeches about women supporting women, about authenticity, about kindness, when behind the scenes you were doing the exact opposite." Meghan's jaw dropped. "You don't know what the hell you're talking about, don't I?" Alison's smile was razor sharp now. "Because I have receipts, darling. Actual receipts. Voice messages you left for Jessica when she wouldn't do exactly what you wanted. Text messages to Marcus about which events would get you the most coverage. Email chains where you systematically destroyed other women's reputations when they posed a threat to your climb up the social ladder." The studio was dead silent except for the barely audible hum of the cameras. Meghan's breathing had become rapid and shallow, her hands clenched into fists on her lap. "And then there's the real kicker," Alison continued relentlessly. "The way you treated the very people who helped you get where you are. The way you discarded them like yesterday's newspapers the moment they were no longer useful to your grand plan." "Stop," Meghan whispered, but her voice had no power behind it. "The charity workers you promised to help but never called back. The up-and-coming actresses you sabotaged because they might steal your spotlight. The friends you dropped without explanation when they didn't fit your new royal image. Should I go on?" Meghan's composure finally shattered completely. "You have no fucking right," she screamed, jumping to her feet. "You sit there in your cheap little studio with your bargain basement show and think you can tear me down? You're nothing. Nothing compared to what I've achieved." The mask had finally slipped entirely. Gone was the polished, media-trained Duchess. In her place stood someone raw, furious, and completely out of control. Alison remained perfectly calm, almost serene in contrast to Meghan's rage. "There she is," she said quietly. "There's the real Meghan Markle. Not the carefully constructed persona, not the victim narrative, but the real you. The one who uses people and throws them away. The one who sees everyone as either useful or disposable." "Shut up," Meghan shrieked. "Just shut the fuck up. You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through." "Oh, but I do know you," Alison replied, her voice steady as a rock. "I know you better than you think. Because here's the thing about people like you. You always leave a trail. And honey, your trail is a mile wide and twice as ugly." Meghan was practically vibrating with rage now, her carefully styled hair falling across her face, her designer outfit wrinkled from her clenched postures. "This is harassment. This is exactly the kind of treatment that forced me to leave the UK in the first place." "No, darling," Alison said with devastating calm. "What forced you to leave was people finally seeing through your act. What forced you to leave was the realization that you couldn't manipulate an entire monarchy the way you manipulated everyone else in your life. That was the final straw." Meghan let out a sound that was somewhere between a scream and a growl, grabbing her designer handbag and wheeling toward the exit. "This interview is over," she shouted, her voice cracking with fury. "Over. You'll be hearing from my lawyers. All of you." But Alison wasn't finished. "And there it is, ladies and gentlemen," she called out as Meghan stormed toward the studio doors. "The real Meghan Markle. When confronted with the truth, when faced with accountability for her actions, she runs. Just like she always has." Meghan spun around one final time, her face contorted with pure hatred. "Go to hell, Alison, and fuck your pathetic little show." With that, she was gone, the studio doors slamming behind her with such force that they bounced back open. The sound echoed through the now silent studio like a gunshot. For a moment, nobody moved. The audience sat in stunned silence, unsure whether to applaud or simply process what they had just witnessed. The camera operators continued filming, professional instincts kicking in even as they tried to comprehend the magnitude of what had just unfolded. Alison, meanwhile, sat back in her chair with a satisfied smile, smoothing down her outfit as if nothing extraordinary had happened at all. "Well then," she said to the cameras, her voice bright and cheerful once again. "That was certainly interesting, wasn't it? I think we can all agree that was the real Meghan Markle. Not the carefully crafted image we're usually presented with, but the actual person behind the PR machine." She paused for a moment, letting the weight of what had just happened settle over the studio. "You know, I've been doing this job for a long time, she continued, her tone becoming more serious. And I've learned that you can judge a person's true character not by how they behave when everything's going their way, but by how they react when they're challenged, when they're held accountable, when they can't control the narrative. The audience was hanging on every word now, still processing the explosive confrontation they had just witnessed. And what we saw here today tells us everything we need to know, doesn't it? Behind all the speeches about kindness and authenticity, behind all the carefully orchestrated photo opportunities and strategic charity appearances, there's someone who simply can't handle being questioned. Someone who responds to accountability with rage and insults. Alison looked directly into the main camera, her expression serious but satisfied. That's not the behavior of someone who's been wronged. That's not the reaction of someone with nothing to hide. That's the response of someone who's been exposed, and who knows it. She stood up slowly, straightening her jacket with the same calm demeanor she'd maintained throughout the entire ordeal. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching what I think we can safely call one of the most revealing interviews in television history. Not because of what was said, but because of how someone reacted when confronted with uncomfortable truths about their past. The camera held on Alison's face as she delivered her final words. Sometimes, the most honest moment in an interview isn't when someone answers a question, it's when they refuse to. And sometimes, the most telling revelation isn't what someone says, but how they choose to leave. With that, she smiled that trademark Alison Hammond smile, warm and genuine, as if she hadn't just delivered one of the most devastating takedowns in television history. We'll be right back after this break with our next guest, who I'm told actually plans to stay for the entire interview. The cameras finally stopped rolling, but the silence in the studio stretched on for several more seconds. Then, slowly, the audience began to applaud. Tentatively at first, then with growing enthusiasm as the full impact of what they had witnessed began to sink in. Alison had done more than just expose Meghan Markle's past. She had stripped away years of carefully constructed public relations work in a matter of minutes, revealing the person behind the persona in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. And as the applause continued to build, one thing became crystal clear. This was television that would be talked about for years to come, not because of any dramatic revelations or shocking confessions, but because of the raw, unfiltered moment when someone's true character was finally, undeniably exposed for all the world to see.